All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. How are you doing? It's great to be here at Connect. And my name is Andrea Vasco, and I'm a solutions engineer here at Couchbase. And for today's session, I'm joined by a good friend of mine, a colleague of mine, and former customer of mine, Ben Davies. So, hi Ben, how are you?
Hi, I'm Ben Davies, and we're gonna show you how to do my adventure with Chargeback that Mr. Andre helped me with when we were in a couple lives ago. And in our adventures with Chargeback, we discovered the key, and part of that was that it's all a useful, consistent lie. So you should embrace the lie, and we'll tell you about it.
Yeah. And just for introducing myself as well, right? I'm a solution engineer at Couchbase. Before that, I spent quite a remarkable amount of time in the US, right? When I worked together with Ben, and I also supported Ben as a service provider, right? And this came out during, I believe, an incredible kind of project that we did during the Obamacare, wasn't it? Right, in the Chicago area.
Right. It started with Obamacare. We're trying to figure out how much it costs to do, a service.
Yeah, because that's the key, right? Eventually, always try to figure out ways to say, okay, you Mr. Vendor, right? You're asking me for a lot of money, right? But how can we make sense of all this money that we're spending, right? Or when too much is too much, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and it comes down to value, right? It doesn't matter how much it costs. It's what's the value that you provide at whatever cost. So if you're free and you provide no value, then I'm not interested. But if you're $1 million and you provide $100 million in value, then we're interested.
Right? That sounds fair enough.
Yeah,
it sounds fair enough. Yeah. So I guess for all the audience out there, right? I guess it's going to be refreshing for them that we're not going to try to sell them anything today, right? In terms of products, but we're just sharing some best practices. Right? So
yeah, our adventures with Chargeback. All right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you how we did it. Tell you what we did wrong, so that you don't have to do that. Save you a couple of years of your life. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yep.
And then we'll show you the keys to some of that. And one of them is a useful, consistent lie, and that tends to drive people crazy until they think about it. And then when we get to there, we'll explore that a little bit.
Yeah, but believe it or not, but a few colleagues of mine already before today's event, right, were already reaching out to me on Slack, say, what do you mean by useful, consistent lie? And I say, oh, my lips are sealed. You got to figure that out at Connect. Yeah, well, so there was some expectation about this talk, if you will.
Well, it's the basis for your entire life.
Exactly.
Not to, I don't want to overstate it or anything, but it is the basis of absolutely everything you have ever done, ever.
Yeah,
no pressure. No pressure. Yeah.
No pressure at all. All right, Ben, why don't we go through the agenda, right? And then, let's move to the second slide. Because, this is essentially the milestones, right, of the discussion we're going to have today. But, Ben, why don't you walk the audience through the format that we came up with?
Yeah, so we're going to discuss a little bit about why people think that they can't do chargeback, right? And I'm here to tell you that you can. And part of our deal on that is we're going to tell you how to think about chargeback, which is nothing to do with accounting. So if you think chargeback is accounting, you're probably doing it wrong. Chargeback is about changing behavior, right? But attempting to change behavior is especially in a ecosystem like a corporation, you're going to become an enemy of the state, right? People are going to hate you, right? Now, if you're not dissuaded by everybody hating you because you're an agent of change, then we're going to show you how to do chargeback, which is a cost recovery target model, right? Recovery target accounting. Pick a number, how many things do you have, do the math, done, right? But this is going to reveal the enigma of this whole problem, which is that how do you then convey this what am I going to charge you for a thing? And people say, oh, is that what it costs? No, that's what I'm charging you. And it's a useful, consistent lie. It's a proxy for what it costs me to provide the goods and services. And one of the fundamental decision points is you have to separate the cost accounting piece from the chargeback piece. They're completely separate, unrelated, well, okay, slightly related topics. So anyway, the useful, consistent lie is how you address it to yourself. And then we'll do a call to action and suggest that this is something you ought to undertake on your own. And even if you don't do chargeback, you should adopt the useful, consistent lie mantra. It's a very liberating idea.
It's good for a tattoo as well, I guess. No?
I know. I'm not going to get a tattoo, but
yeah. And I mean, let me also add for the audience, the expectation, right, is that we're not going to walk you through the slide one by one, right? These slides are for you and for you only to consume afterwards, right? If you were just happen to miss anything in our, open, free conversation, but we're going to just try to pace ourselves right on the main topics of the agenda. All right.
And talk about why we did or why we found what we found. Right. We'll talk about that. That would be far more entertaining. And then the presentation stands on its own. There's liberal use of the notes section. So don't look at the PowerPoint. Look at the notes section. There's quite a lot of links to outside resources that we discuss what's what and who's who, and that's all very helpful. So the presentation stands on its own. We're just going to talk about how we got where we got and why it was fun.
Yep. So, I mean, Ben, let's get ourselves started. So let's start from the main discussion part, right? The rant, the recurring theme with a lot of customers and realities out there. Oh, we can do chargeback, right? Don't ask us about that. Don't talk to us about, cost transparency. Don't talk to us about getting a hold about a cost, because we don't do that.
Right. Well, because most managers have seen their cost chargeback idea or shameback, whatever they called it. And it was an unmitigated disaster. Ours was, right? We spent 2 years on it. It was an unmitigated disaster. And we found later that the reason it was an unmitigated disaster is because we were doing it wrong, all right? We should have been doing, targeted recovery models, not cost of goods sold models, right? The cost of goods sold models, yes, you need that. That's over there. Right, you should kind of have an idea of what it costs you to produce your widget, whatever your widget is.
Yeah, whatever it is.
But whatever that is, whatever that cost is, this is what I'm going to charge you. And what you find out is that once you start manipulating your chargeback model so that you can manipulate behavior, which is the goal, right? That is the goal, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, we're going to see that.
I will give you expensive stuff that I want you to use now at a discount. While the stuff that's cheap and easy to produce but is out of service, I'm going to charge you through the nose for that, right? So what it costs me to give it to you is almost unrelated to what I'm going to charge you to consume it, because I want to change your behavior, and I do that by charging you a different rate for the things that I want you to have, at a higher rate for the things I'd rather you did not have. I'm not going to keep you from it, but if you choose the expensive option, right, I'll take the money.
And so this argument, it's already advanced, if you will, because I mean, we've also seen organizations telling to us we don't have the data, which sounds crazy,
you do have the data, right? So part of the problem, right? Exactly, and we thought that as well. Oh, we don't have the data. We don't know how much.
Of course,
costs.
you don't.
We can't break it down. And part of it is you have to define what your ignorances are, and ignorance is not a bad thing, right? Everybody's ignorant at something, and you have to realize that. If you think you're having a financial conversation, you're having the wrong conversation. So you inform yourself that I don't want a financial conversation. I want a cost. I don't want the cost of goods sold. I want, what am I going to charge you for this widget? And then how am I going to charge you differently to change your decision, right? If I don't like your normal decision, I need to tweak that. And I do that with chargeback, right? So figuring out where your ignorances are, and that's one of the separation things. And then you will overestimate your abilities and underestimate the abilities of the person that you're dealing with. And that's illusionary supremacy or superiority. That's the phrase, right? Illusionary superiority, right? There's a Wikipedia link that we have in the notes. You should go look at that, right? It's illuminating to realize that you are not all that you think you are. And that they are not as bad as they think they are. So people aren't stupid on purpose, right? If you give somebody reasonable choices, a good corporate citizen will make good corporate choices. Well, there you go. So you have to put it in a way that gives a good corporate citizen a good corporate choice.
And I mean,
right?
and talking
so
also, and also talking about, right, that you cannot do that, or I mean, expectations or assumptions, way better term. I mean, a lot of people would just say, hey, yeah, we get why it's that important, but it's way too complicated. And do you think?
Oh, but it's,
yeah, I mean, they would just say, yeah, we have no idea how to do that, and we have no budget to figure that out. This is, for professional crunching numbers kind of persons, and it's not really our, our ballpark.
Right. Okay. So let's break the two parts down, right?
Yep.
So in a cost recovery model, all you really do is figure out, I need $1 million to recover, and I have 1 million things to sell. That's $1 a piece, and you're done.
Yeah.
Right? I think I can sell 1 million things. I can sell them at $1 a piece. I need to recover $1 million. That my math is done. If I have, $10 million I need to recover on 1 million units of whatever, it's $10 a piece. It's simple math, right? That's the way you should be thinking. If you think, oh, I need to know how much the RAM costs of the blue and the green and the yellow RAM and the big hard drives and the spinny drives and the solid state drives and how much are they different, that is cost of goods sold conversation.
Yeah.
That's the wrong conversation. If you're having that conversation, you're doing what everybody else does, and that's wrong.
It's unnecessary complexity, right? Because you're just overthinking stuff, and that results in having you freeze.
Yeah, you're thinking of the wrong half of the problem.
Yeah.
You should know how much it costs you to do that kind of stuff, but none of that information goes into your chargeback model, your cost recovery target model, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's very true. I mean, do we want to share and probably comment, right, just on the textbook definition of chargeback, right? Because, I mean, that can really be interesting because, I mean.
All right. So let's take a step back. Okay?
Yeah.
So chargeback is a set of IT policies that the IT department does to allocate back to its customers how it is that they're going to fund the IT group, right? And in the most simple way, years and years and years ago, it was done by people, right? I need to recover 1 million people. I've got 10 people. It's, $10 million a person or whatever. I did the math wrong, but you just did normal division. And then everybody says, oh, but my guys are not as expensive as that. And your guys are more expensive than that. So then they started counting phones and desk and square footage. But that's the data you need, right? Yeah. What do I have as an inventory that I can reasonably allocate stuff to, add a price to it? That's chargeback. Yep. Okay. Not cost accounting, right? Cost of goods sold, not wrong conversation. So we want to base this allocations on some sort of either utilization or some proxy of utilization. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just based on your experience, what would be more effective, allocation or utilization, or a mixed model maybe?
It depends on what you're trying to drive behavior-wise.
Okay.
Right. So if I want you to turn the lights off, right, at home, right, you got your kids, and I want you to turn the lights off. When you turn the lights on and you leave the room, you're going to get charged extra. Yeah. If you come into the room and you turn on the light and you read your book and you turn off the light when you're done and you go, there you go. That could be a free kind of event. But leaving the light on, we'll charge you for that, right? Charge you for leaving the light on. If, however, I just want to not have the lights on at all, then I'll charge you for every minute or hour that the light is on, right? So now there's a perverse incentive there against reading inside, right? Because you come in, you turn on the light and you read, that's going to cost you money. So now your kids will say, oh, I should read in the dark, which is a terrible idea. But it depends on what behavior you're trying to drive people towards. Okay, so they both have their place.
Yeah, it's just like a taxation, right? I mean, you design taxes to drive behavior over just the citizens, right? So, I mean, in an organization, maybe if there is a sprawling of virtual machines, right? If you just allocate the resources, I don't care, just, allocate them and forget about them, I'm going to hit you hard because I want you to remember that you're allocating stuff, right, over my cluster.
Correct.
Yep.
Right. So whatever behavior you're trying to achieve, adjust your chargeback model to influence those behaviors. Now, if you trying to get somebody to learn how to ride a bike and there's no chargeback mechanism that has anything to do with a bicycle, you're never going to gain the ground that you want. So you have to say, oh, well, here's our goal. Here's what we want people to drive towards and what we want to keep them from. Price the stuff that you want to keep them from in an expensive way, right? And your idea with taxes, you can increase the taxes or make it illegal, right? And make the stuff you want them to do, cheap to do, easy to get a permit for, inexpensive, not illegal, right? You can drive behavior with those kinds of levers. And that's what Chargeback is about. It's changing behavior. That's the key message of this whole thing.
Yeah, because I'm just moving right to the next section. Chargeback is about change behavior because we said it multiple times, right? And the more you speak about that and talk about that, the more I realize that probably sometimes Chargeback, right? Sometimes when we deal about IT functions, we just concentrate on the theory, right, of the process itself, right? So in Chargeback, we figure, okay, it's financials, and needs to be absolutely fair, and needs to be absolutely precise, right? But we forget that Chargeback, right, is a function that supports the business. So instead of being, a function per se, it should be a tool that the business has to drive certain behaviors. Does it make sense?
To drive behaviors that are good corporate policy, good corporate citizen behaviors, right? So, but it's got nothing to do with finance. You're right? Yeah. And we spent wasted years and years on a chargeback model that included cost of goods sold. And that's an outright mistake, and you ought not do it. And if I can save you from doing that, then that's 2 years of your life that you can have back, because it's an expensive lesson, right? And the idea behind the chargeback system is, again, drive behavior. What do I want you to do? How can I incentivize that? What do I don't want you to do? How can I de-incentivize that?
Yeah.
All right. So if I want to incentivize,
certain practices, right? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. All right. So if I want you to do something, I'm going to incentivize that. Yeah. If I want you not to do something, I want to de-incentivize that. So that's what your chargeback deal does. I have an expensive technology that I want everybody to move to because it's better, faster, cheaper, cleaner from a corporate perspective. I'm going to give you a discount on that. This Windows XP server that's over here or whatever, that's rubbish. You should not have that. But if for some reason you need it, I'm going to charge you through the nose for it because I want to motivate you not to be there. I want you to motivate somewhere else. What it costs me to put on the floor is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a finance thing. It's a motivational thing. Do I want to sweeten it up with a little sugar? Right? Or do I want to put a little cactus thorns in there? Right? That's what chargeback is about.
And probably it always comes down also to defining success, right? And defining what's the end state, right? That I want to have from this campaign, right? What is the ideal state? After chargeback is being implemented, right? How would I foresee, right, the organizations to behave, right? Or take advantage of this model? What kind of behavior, as you said, I'm trying to drive in a way.
Right. And you make that behavior less expensive, easier, faster, cheaper, cleaner, and the stuff that you don't want them to do more expensive, uncomfortable, painful, whatever. And the mark of the success in the beginning is going to be something like, I need to recover my $1 million.
Yep.
Great. Now I've recovered my $1 million, and now I take another look at my environment and I say, I want to push people toward the cloud, so I'm going to subsidize the cloud. Or I'm going to push people away from the public cloud and into my private cloud or whatever. And part of that was to find out that you pay for security and audit, no matter what you do. Security and audit is normally dumped into the cost of a server. So your internal cost is, $10,000 for that server, but they can go get a cloud server for, a third of that, but you still need audit and security. So break audit and security out, let them choose their 5,000 cloud versus 5,000 on premise, right? Because for us, it's about the same. It's about the same, but you're still going to pay for security and audit as a separate entity. So it doesn't matter which one you choose. I'm still going to clip you the money that it takes me to do the security and audit.
Yep.
Right. When you bundle them together, you've almost forced people out, and you end up losing that security and audit revenue because it's bundled in with your servers, which you're no longer selling.
Yeah, I mean, it's the noble art of coming out with the price, right? So, I mean, you got to price something, as you said, the cost of the good, right? And what is the optimal price to drive the kind of response that I would like to get, right? So how can I move?
But the cost of goods sold is irrelevant.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the cost of goods sold is irrelevant.
I get it.
Yeah. So I have a recovery target. I need $1 million. Fine. I have 1 million, printers. Every time you touch a printer, it's $1, which means it doesn't matter how much RAM or CPU or disk you have.
Yeah, it's behind that, right?
Well, I've recovered my money. Great. But now I want to get you off of, 5,000 RPM drives up to, single solid state drives. All right, fine. I'm going to increase the cost of this cheap technology artificially and show you that that's not where I want you. And I want you on this subsidized other hard drive technology. And I still maintain my $1 million because I mess with the prices. And then once I achieve that goal, now you go to your next goal. Okay, great. I've got all my old disk off the network. I've got all my Windows NT things off the network. Now I need to get, drive behavior toward standardized networking or standardized server sizes.
Yeah, I see. So Ben, let's talk about one liberating thought, which is this one, right? Abandon the quest for truth. There are only useful, consistent lies. And actually, I mean, this same concept came up in a book that I read a few years ago from Andre Agassi, right? And the famous tennis player. And essentially was sharing that in his early years, right, he was always going for the baseline, right? Whatever it was, he said that the shot has to be perfect, right? And I would rather, make a foul, right? Or just, have the ball going out of bounds because I was constantly looking for the perfect shot. And all of a sudden, right, he was just realizing, hey, I don't need perfect. I need good enough, right? And the moment that he realized that good enough was enough for winning titles just started raining, and I mean, when I read about that, I read about this idea, right, that you came up with and we came up with during the journey, right? The fact that a lot of people would just say, oh, I need to figure out exactly what's the hourly cost for a premium CPU, which stays on that specific data center, right, on that specific rack. And they just spend...
That's equivalent to your perfect shot, right?
Yep.
You get distracted with the perfect shot.
Yeah.
Once you realize the perfect shot is not the goal is to win a tournament. And how do you win a tournament? You don't win a tournament with perfect shots. You win a tournament by winning points. And how do you win points? You win points by making shots that are good enough to score that point.
Yeah.
Right? A little lob over the net while you're on the other side, that's a point.
Yeah.
Blasting it right at you so you can't recover, that's a point. But a perfect shot is not the goal. Right? It's a bonus. Yeah. It makes good news. But making the points. Make the points, you make the tournaments. You make the tournaments, you get the titles, make the titles, make the money. Right? Nothing whatever to do with the perfect shot.
Yeah. And wouldn't you agree that, I mean, this realization, right, has also everything in common with the need of understanding the end goal of the campaign, right, of the chargeback campaign, which is either driving behavior or the expected outcome, right? Because, I mean, of course, the expected outcome will come out with a plan, and that plan may imply changes in behavior, right? But the whole idea is that you got to understand where you're going to, right? Where you gotta get to, and which
is your recovery target in our case, right? But part of the realization of this was the fact that what you thought you were going for, this perfect shot idea, there is no perfect shot, right? There is none. It's a lie. It's a lie, right? What you want is good enough. It's good enough for the conversation, good enough for the game, good enough for the whatever. So if it makes the point, makes the game progress, good enough. Same thing with the useful, consistent lie in every conversation you have ever had, ever. Like, what time is it? Whatever you have in your head, it's wrong. Whatever you have in your head is wrong.
Yeah.
Right? So depending on where you are in the world, it's like, oh, it's lunchtime, it's noon 30, it's beer o'clock, whatever, right? what is the commercial? It's grilled cheese o'clock. That's a great commercial. Anyway, whatever you had in your head for what time it is, it's wrong. Because the correct answer, the most correct answer, will cost you a weekend with a physicist to figure out what the exact time is. And what you realize, like the perfect shot in tennis, that is not relevant. The absolute truth is not relevant. It's a useful, consistent lie to get the event going, get the game going, get your point so that you can get your set, so you can get your match, so you can get your trophy. Right? So what time is it? If 12:30 is close enough, if that's what you want, there you go. If we have a meeting at noon and we say, oh, it's afternoon, it's like, oh, well, we're late. Is that close enough? It didn't help. So, oh, well, it's 12:01. Oh, we're not that late. Now that you can narrow your lie to something a little more specific, right?
Useful.
Yeah, but it's useful.
And I mean, in a way, it's also a way to make some sort of rational thinking, right? The way that, I mean, literally rational means, right? Which is you got to relate, right, the end goal to what you can likely achieve, right? So instead of looking for the absolute truth, which is utopia, I mean, it's a utopian goal where you will never get there, right? Because it's sometimes it's almost impossible or not just practical, right? You got to figure out what is the best approximation of the truth that I can get, right? Which will allow me
that it's helpful to be part of the conversation.
Yep.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about how old are you, right? Whatever. Right. So in the context of, oh, hey, how are you? Right. So I'm 50-ish something. Right. That's close enough. Right. Get an idea. But if I'm talking to my doctor, well, he wants to know that I'm 58. But if I'm talking to my, my retirement planner, I'm 58 and 3 months and, whatever. So because he's looking at the day, the proper day.
The hours.
Right. To the hour. Right. And in that context, you need a more precise lie, but they're all a lie, right? Because if you say, how old are you? Oh, well, I'm 28 again, right? Matter of fact, my 28th birthday is having its 28th birthday. Right. So that's the lie. Whatever helps the conversation is the lie. And they're everywhere. How old are you? How tall are you? Where are you in the world? Imagine where you are in the universe, right? That changes. Yeah. You're doing like 48,000 million miles an hour right now because everything around you is moving. But that's not relevant to the conversation you normally have, which is, where are you right now? Well, I'm right here. Yeah. Right? You don't need to know grid lines. You don't need the altitude. You don't need that unless you do. Right?
And if you do, I will give you the least imprecise, answer to get the best understanding that you need, right?
Right. So if you give me your address, I can come over for a beer. But if I wanted to put a nuclear weapon in your front door, I would need a little more precise thing, right?
Yeah. Please don't.
So everything, yes, but everything is a useful, consistent lie. You find out everything, what day of the week it is, right? If Gregorian calendar, Julian calendar. Yeah. All of those things are lies, right? And we just have agreed on some to find out what time it is, right? To find out what our name is, right?
So, I mean, let's move on from this. So we talked about, right, changing behavior, and we talked about that you should, change behavior and drive the change of behavior, not by, giving the perfect answer, right? Or the perfect motivation, but just the motivation that it's good enough to get the conversation started, right? Let's talk about this, the status quo hates you, right? And I mean, when this is the concept of inertia, or, going back to the first, the first times that we actually met in Chicago, right? I remember that I used to smoke, and everybody in the smoking area would just look at me and say, oh, you're smoking. It's so European, right? And in my American days, each and every time my doctor would tell me, you should really consider quitting smoking, right? And I would hate him and I hate her because I hate both of them so much, right? So why don't we talk about this concept of, the moment that you start to change something, you got to realize that people is going to eventually hate you, isn't it? I mean, or hate you, but I mean, they will be resistant to change, isn't it?
Well, when you're doing chargeback, right, and you're interfering with the way that your company has created decisions, made decisions, agreed on decisions, when you start to change that to say, oh no, we're going to use this other model, people's power bases are going to change and they're going to feel threatened, and you will be hated, right? You will be hated. Yes, I was. Yes, I liked it. But when you change an ecosystem like that, inertia of the status quo is emotionally involved, right? So it's immune to fact, reason, and logic.
Yeah, that's pretty right here, right?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, there you go. We have a slide for that, right? Yep. So the status quo is immune to those factors. So when you have this, oh, but that's not true, then you can come back with that. Yes, but it's a useful, consistent lie. This is going to help our conversation. Yeah. If we charge hard drives this way, if we charge cloud this way, right? That's the useful, consistent lie that we are going to agree on moving forward to do chargeback. So you will be hated by the system, and the way to help get around that is to have everybody realize that it's just a useful, consistent lie, whatever you're doing now, and we're just changing some of the lies. We're just changing the conversation. You still get to make your decisions. They're just addressed differently. So the two of those actually go really, really well together, right? Know that status quo is going to hate you, and then you have to convince the status quo that their current lie is just a lie, and the new lie is just a lie. Well, it's just another lie.
Back in my consulting day, right? I mean, yeah, I would get, the kind of reaction most of the times, I would say, where people would just say, hey, we've always done stuff in this way for decades, right? Why are you here today? I'm here because you've done this stuff in this way for decades. And there's a need for change,
Yeah, what the correct decision then was the correct decision then, but it's not necessarily the correct decision now, right? And this is a hard thing to get the status quo to get over, right? Because back when Macs were the oh, look at a Mac, everybody wanted a Mac, right? Well, then technology moved, and now Mac is a little more restrictive than Windows. So everybody went over to Windows. Well, business-wise went to Windows, and then they said, oh, you know what, this is kind of getting unwieldy, whatever, and now they're drifting back toward Macs. So which decision was correct or wrong? And the answer is they were all correct. Given facts and evidence at the time the decision was made, it was the correct decision. But now the facts and evidence have changed, and you need to make a new decision, a new conversation, a new set of lies. Useful, consistent lies, but lies nonetheless.
It sounds very tiring, though, right? Because I mean, you got to keep moving because the world. Yeah, and I mean, if you're always that guy that changes the status quo, I mean, you're gonna be loved by from your colleagues, right? Because I mean, you are always that guy that jumps into the room and say, "Here we go, there's Ben again."
Yeah. Well, I was that guy, right? Yeah. And look at my resume, right? I was in the Navy for a while as internet security, internet audit, process improvement. Yeah. I would make the status quo unhappy. I would achieve whatever goal I was supposed to have achieved, and then it was best to go do something else somewhere else. So you're not going to make friends doing this, but you will achieve the goal of making your corporation a better corporate citizen.
Can you think of any outstanding example of somebody, the status quo, reacting to your offer, right, of change, and someone coming out with some sort of outrageous kind of comeback, right, to your request for let's sit down and talk about that? Can you think of anything that you can share, of course, worldwide?
So early on, we had a conversation with the server team, right? Mm-hmm. And we said, we're going to charge $17,000 for this server. And they went nuts because they knew that server only costs $2,000.
Yeah.
And they fought tooth and nail because that server is only $2,000, and we won't let you sell it for $14,000. And then we had to have this whole conversation about, well, my $14,000 includes all of this stuff. It's RAM, it's disk, it's the mounting, it's the air conditioning, it's the power, it's the security, it's the audit, it's the building it's in. It's all of that stuff combined. And that became the useful, consistent lie for what this represents for a recovery target, right? To make my recovery target, I have 10,000 of these machines and I need 17 or 1,700,000, whatever the math turned out to be. We did our division, and that's what drove that price. And they says, but you can't do it because the server only costs 2,000. And so yes. So sometimes you're just not going to win that conversation, and the answer to that is don't have financial conversations with technicians.
Okay.
Right.
And who would you?
These are all management conversations.
Okay.
Right. Even IT managers, right? Because it's a proxy for something else. It's a proxy for the value of what comes with this server, with this device, with this service, right? And that helped. That useful, consistent lie helped create the context around this. That we're not saying that's what the server is even worth. That's the stuff that went in it. That server is now a proxy for all of the things that come with it. Security, audit, disk, memory, power, cooling, all of that stuff is incorporated in that lie. And they, all right, fine. You're not trying to tell me this is actually what it costs. This is a lie. You know it's a lie. I know it's a lie. And then they accepted it. That normally is how it went. But when you had those conversations at the technician level, we never won the conversation.
I mean, but
when we had it at the management level. Well, at the management level, we won those conversations, right? Because they saw that, oh yeah, everything's a lie. Everything's a lie. They know it's a lie. And
but I mean,
just a grip.
To your point, right, about talking to a technician, I mean, that could also be an opportunity, right, for the different areas of the organization to realize that, I mean, they are not just islands, right? They are part of a bigger mechanism, right? So as you said, it's true. The actual hardware, right, may cost $2,000, but there is an ecosystem of services, right, that are either supporting or this piece of hardware is supporting, right? And you got to factor them in, right? Because I mean, otherwise it's like you're running a company and you're not factoring in costs like HR, right? Accounting, people that is not really, bringing immediate value, but it's absolutely necessary to keep the operations going.
Absolutely. And that becomes like the second and third and fourth wave of your chargeback, right? So I met my $1 million recovery target, and now I want to direct people off of Windows NT. So we talk to the technicians and you say, hey, what stuff is in the data center that we absolutely are just being killed by because it's not supported, can't be patched, whatever. And they says, oh, we got to get rid of this NT stuff. Great. I'm going to make a lie that says NT is now $27,000 instead of $17,000. Now, if you need it for your application, then there you go. You fork over the cash. But now it's worth it for you as an application owner to look for an alternative, right? Especially when next year it's going to go to $57,000 a server.
Yeah.
And the next year it's going to be $150,000 a server. Oh, now so you have
now or never.
Something else. Right now it's you have some motivation, but now you're going to be a good corporate citizen and make good corporate citizen decisions, which is, I know what my value is. I know what it's costing me, not what it cost the company, but it was costing me. And I'm going to make my individually selfish decision, which is going to be good for me, which is also going to be good for the corporation. Because I'm going to get rid of the NT technology at some expense so that I can go to supported, cheaper hardware, which is a good corporate decision, but it's in my best interest as well. Right? So,
I mean, we're just mentioning, of course,
idea.
We're just mentioning NT just for the sake of mentioning that, obviously. Before,
well, yeah, that was a real example. No, that was a real example.
Okay.
Windows NT was a great operating system, and it did a ton of stuff, and it was all over the data center. But then it became unsupported. But we have applications from companies that have been purchased, and then those companies were purchased or whatever, and there's no updates to the software. And this software makes pretty widgets for us, and it only works on NT. And that's a huge corporate liability.
Yeah,
so as a corporate,
it's incredible.
Yeah, as a corporate idea, we said, no, that is expensive. And if you're going to use it as a customer, we need to show you that it's expensive so that you're motivated to go somewhere else. We're not saying that's what it costs to support. We're just saying that's what we're going to charge you. And that was the liberating piece when we started doing chargeback. Cost of goods sold, consciously make that not the conversation.
Okay.
It's a useful, consistent lie, a proxy of the value that we're going to put into that unit, and then help you make a decision. We're going to weight these costs to make you self-serve, because we want you to be greedy, because that's what people are. People are greedy. They're going to do what's best for them. And we want that decision to be best for the corporation, right? So if you need that NT server, there you go. You're going to pay for it.
Yep.
If you don't need it, then there you go. We get it off the data center, and you go off to more normal technologies, even if you have to change software and other processes. Anyway, so it's a useful, consistent lie.
Yeah, I mean, I would say since we are at the 40 minutes mark or so, right, it's probably time to, I mean, we already touched on that, right? But probably talk a little bit more about the recovery target accounting, right? And I mean, I would say this slide, this is exactly what we've been talking about, right? All the time, right?
It is. Okay, so and change the color of this, because this is what everybody sees, right?
Yeah.
We do cost accounting, and then we allocate that cost, because now it makes a difference, right? If you get the gold model, it's more. If you get the silver model, it's less. Those are the first two little parts of that. And then you realize we're no longer in that conversation. We have a control over what we're spending. We know what we're spending. Now have a completely separate conversation, which is that third little bit, cost recovery. And the cost recovery is a for real thing. If you look it up on Google, it's a cost recovery targeting.
Okay.
Right. And it's a for real accounting method. Right. So you get rid of the first two. Right. And when they come up in conversations, kill it. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about how much it costs. We don't care what it costs. What we care about is the lie that we're going to use to have recover. You make a good corporate decision, and still recover our target. So a cost recovery target is a real thing, and it's completely separate.
Yes, I mean, the idea, I would say, right, always to have clear on your mind, right? What's the ultimate goal, right? And then design backwards, right? Instead of saying, okay, I mean, these are the costs involved to have a VM, right? From my perspective, right? So this is what I believe is a fair price. And all of a sudden just realize, shoot, I mean, the price, it's way too much, or most of the case, way too less, right? Than what we should have charged for, right? And you can really figure out what is the perfect formula. But if you go in the other way around, right? You know how much money you got to recover. And so it makes it easier to say, okay, I got to recover this money. And I mean,
I can sell these many widgets, and I'm going to use those widgets and these widgets and these widgets, price them this way, and make my cost recovery target. And then be able to manipulate those prices so that I can drive your behavior. I can get you to buy smaller, less expensive things, or bigger, more expensive things, because I subsidize it, and move you from big machines to little machines, or little machines to big machines, or distributor to mainframe, or off mainframe onto distributor to whatever. I can price it in a way that your personal satisfaction as a manager making choices is good for the company. You're supporting
and I will also
yourself.
Add that if the cost recovery strategy, right, comes out with a cost, right, for the individual piece that you can sell, that is absolutely outstanding, probably you got to revisit your useful, consistent lie, right? I mean, just put it in plain English. If it would turn out that I can sell an NT virtual machine for $1 million a day, right? That's probably a sign that, I mean, I can come up with this price, right? But this is way more than driving behavior to, to
Well,
not
that is
using
going
it
to drive
versus.
behavior, right?
Yeah,
So
that's also
if
true.
I want cloud to be $1 million a year for a cloud server, that's because I don't want you on the cloud. All right. Now, if it's important to you and you're going to give me $1 million a year for it, knock yourself out. Right. But that's a good corporate decision from your standpoint.
Yeah.
Right now, but if I want to get you onto the cloud or give you a choice between cloud and on-premise, then I'm going to pull out, let's say, audit and security, and not bundle that in with my server price. And now the server prices are essentially the same. And oh, by the way, per server, you have to buy this other corporate service of security and audit. Right. So I don't care if you do go on-premise or off. They cost you about the same because my security and audit thing goes with the server.
Yeah.
It's
a component that goes regardless. Yeah.
Right. It's not embedded in my server price, which is why my servers look twice as expensive as the cloud. And everybody said, "Oh, I got to go to the cloud." Yeah. Well, yeah, but you're still going to get security and audit. So that piece should be pulled out, and that should be a tax or whatever on the number of devices you make, for example. Yeah. Right. But that helps drive your decisions. And as long as you're making self-serving decisions that are also self-serving for the corporation, everybody's happy. Once you realize it's just a lie and you're comfortable with that lie.
And since we are at 46 minutes, right, and we're just about, right, to wrap it up. I mean, in the rest of the slides, there is an example, right, of how you can run, this exercise. We're going to just skip it all together, like leave it to the audience. I mean, let's wrap it up before just distributing homework, right? Let's talk about the useful, consistent lie, right? So we're really talk about what time it is right now, right? But let's reinforce, right, the value of that. And I mean, at least to me, right, the way that I always interpreted this, probably in a stoic approach, is embracing the value of just doing the good enough, right? Set yourself a goal.
Yes.
Right. And just don't shoot for the absolute perfection, but probably, aim at, say, okay, did I achieve my goal? Right. Am I driving the behavior in an effective way? Yes, I do. Okay, move on,
Exactly. And let's do this with but it's not. Remember the door code is.
Oh, sorry. I was just touched. Sorry for that. Yep.
Okay. So let's take this to the point of actual math, right? So what's the radius of the circle, right? 2 pi r squared, whatever, right? But what is pi, right? What is pi? If you want the exact answer, you will never, ever get there.
Yeah.
So what you do is take a useful, consistent lie of 3, right? It's about 3. Oh, no. We need a little more precise than that. Oh, 3.1. Okay. Okay. So, I didn't quite do it because now I'm doing elliptical or orbits and it's not coming. Oh, 3.14.
Yeah.
And then, that comes. But now I got a sharper pencil, right? I can make smaller lines. My 3.14 doesn't get there. Oh, 3.14, 156. Oh, 3.14. Oh, there you go. Now I'm good enough until I sharpen my pencil and I need something that's more precise. As the conversation needs a more precise answer, then you become more precise in your lie. But the what is the area of a circle? You will never, ever, ever answer that to the exact perfect answer, ever, by definition, right?
I mean, and as many things in life, right? It boils down to what we're sharing here: a reasonable degree of mutual understanding, right?
Or a misunderstanding, correct? Right. As long as we knew what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is already a bold statement sometimes, but
Yeah. So let's go to that barbecue place. Well, there's thousands of barbecue places, but we have a mutual understanding of what the barbecue place is.
That place,
and off we go. Oh yeah, that place. Yeah. Right. That's a useful, consistent lie for our conversation. Now let's bring Frank into the conversation and say, oh, let's go to the barbecue place. Oh, well, now we actually have to tell them what the name of it is and what the address is, right? Now the useful, consistent lie isn't useful and consistent enough for that conversation, all right? Same thing with what time is it, right? if you're doing scientific experiments and you're timing the ball dropping to the floor, at 12:30 does not help that conversation.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to say, I know what time it is right now, and I let the ball go, and I know what time it is when it hit the ground, and I can do my math and say that was, 0.04 milliseconds. There you go. That's close enough for that conversation. That's a useful conversation to have in that live. But when you're doing physics at a smaller level, 0.4 milliseconds is not small enough. Right? You're doing nuclear detonations. You go down to shakes, which is individual wavelengths of light. Right?
Precision may become very important at that point.
Right. And now you're counting wavelengths of light to count time. In that conversation, that's the useful, consistent light, because it's still not the exact correct answer. It's just good enough for that conversation. Good enough, by definition, is good enough.
It's good enough. Yep. All right, man. Since we are 15 minutes in, let's just talk with the homework, right? For the audience here before wrapping it up. So the call to action, right? And let me just start with Chargeback is easy. And
Chargeback is easy except for the people.
Yeah.
Right? Cost accounting is hard. Don't do that. Chargeback, dead simple, except for the people.
Yeah, which is, that is true in a lot of things in life, right? So, right.
You got politics and people.
Yeah. Then, the cost of goods sold versus the price to achieve a chargeback recovery target, right? We talked about that pretty much extensively. Right. So,
right. This is a key takeaway, that those are completely separate conversations.
Yeah.
And when the cost of goods sold conversation starts to be conversated, they could go away. Nope, that's not what we're talking about. This is a lie about whatever this piece of value is going to be charged, what I'm charging you for it, and what it costs to bring. Unrelated.
Yep.
Okay.
Then chargeback is all about changing behavior, and what is important, right? The model should be consistent, transparent, and well understood. So it's not a black box, right, where you just throw inputs and you cannot even guess what is going to be the output, right? But it should be something that everybody understands. Hopefully, I won't say agree, but essentially embrace, if you will, or tolerate, right?
Well, agree that it's as fair as it's going to get.
Yeah.
Right. And I have a lever to pull. Now, if I have 1,000 levers to pull, that's too much. But if I only have one lever to pull, that's not enough, right? If it's number of people, only thing I can do to solve for my budget overrun is to fire people. That's a terrible, terrible thing. You should have, a couple dozen levers to pull. What kind of server do you want? Cloud, not cloud, a big hard drive, little hard drive, fast hard drive, normal hard drive, right? Those kind of levers. Pull those. And as long as those are reasonably transparent and agreed on, at least for the moment, there you go. That's good enough for chargeback. You don't need to know what each individual thing costs, just what you expect to get for it. And if you sell those, will you recover your target? There you go.
Yeah. And then, number 4, I guess we talked about that extensively, right? The value of useful, consistent lies. So, I wouldn't say that much on top of them, but let's close out with.
Let me say, useful, consistent lies, as you can now say, are the basis of every conversation you have ever had with anybody in your entire life.
Ever.
Right? Useful, consistent lies are everywhere and are the basis of your reality. Yeah. Embrace that and use it to your advantage.
Yeah, to drive behavior, right? And I would say, and then there is the note to caution, right? That in doing so, you're gonna meet resistance, right? Because the status quo is emotionally invested, and so it will just fight their way back to you, right? To say, hey, I'm not doing that.
Right. It's immune to logic and reason and facts. So don't use logic, reason, and facts that would convince the status quo. Use the useful, consistent lie that they're already using against them, which is, hey, this is a lie. All I am proposing is a slightly different lie. They'll get their knickers in a knot because, I don't use lies. I use the real truth. All right. What's the area of a circle?
Yeah. There you go.
Right? Come back when you have the exact answer and you can have this conversation with me, right? And they will realize that everything is a useful, consistent lie. And now, at least now, you're not using reason, facts, or logic against them. You're using, it's a lie. It's just a lie, dude. It's
a plain lie.
Just go with it, right? It doesn't mean you're a bad person. Let's just go with it, right? And that was helpful. The useful, consistent lie, and the not getting into cost accounting. All of those things just killed time. And that is the key takeaways. All right. It's easy. Go ahead and do it. Chargeback recovery. That's the key. All you're doing is, well, not all you're doing. You're changing behavior.
Yep.
And you're going to do that with a
That's
useful, consistent lie. And as you do that, you're going to change the status quo, which is the goal. But know that it's immune to logic, reason, and fact. So don't use logic, reason, and fact. Just substitute a lie. You're my lie. Your lie. My lie. Your lie. That's all you're doing. Changing the lie. Anyway, there you go.
Yep. No, I mean, I would say that it was pretty cool. I mean, Ben, we are essentially on the top of the hour. So I guess it's time to first thanks everybody that was with us today, right? And I would assume that if you guys have any questions, any follow-up, it's going to be either me or Ben supporting you live, but I mean, you're going to have also our contact, information. So if you need anything from us, just refer to, the website. Ben, was so great to do this one with you again, right? Thank you for joining us today.
I like this. Yep. This took years and years of my life. It was a great time. I made everybody mad.
All right. So, I mean, Ben, thank you very much. I will speak to you soon, and to everybody else, just enjoy Connect. All right. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.